Of all the vegetables I grow, there is one group that gives me more satisfaction than almost any others, and that is the root crops. And while they're pretty simple to grow, there is a little bit of a knack to doing it well, and I want to share it with you. While timing is really important for almost all vegetables, I find it's really critical for successful root crops. And particularly in our cold climate, in some places you'll get away with sort of successive sowings that you can harvest right through the seasons. But here I find that sowing in the premium time in spring is always most successful. So I wait for that warming soil, a nice week or two of moist weather on the way, and that is the perfect time to get your root crops in the ground. While the girls convert weeds into perfect nutrients, to sow out a root crop bed you actually need very little. And in fact, this garden bed grew a big crop of radicchio, which is a hungry crop, last, and I'm not going to add much more in the way of nutrients to it at all. I'm just working my way through and forking to aerate, sort of fluff that soil surface up. I'm not turning it over, I don't want to break up the biology in the soil. Then I'll add just a really thin sprinkle of homemade compost. It's not very rich, won't add nutrients, but it will help to keep the surface of the soil nice and moist. I'm raking the soil level to ensure it's a really fine tilth, because I want to make sure that the seeds make contact with the soil when I sow them. I'm making some rills for sowing about 10 centimetres apart with my rake. I've attached some small bits of hose to get nice, even spacings. Root crops are traditionally sown direct into the soil because you want that root, and separating and planting seedlings can often disrupt that development. And carrots are really the most important crop to sow direct. They are, of course, the poster root crop, and they are really sensitive to being transplanted. Never buy a punnet of carrots at the shops, but you can see that that seed is absolutely tiny, so it can be quite difficult to handle. There's a bit of a trick to sowing them, and I learnt this from Peter Cundall. I'm sure some of you did too. I've got a jar of really fine soil. You could equally use some sand, and I'm going to mix that fine seed into that. Thoroughly combine it, and then I can sprinkle this soil across those rills, and I'll get much better spacing for those tiny seeds than I would if I tried to do it straight from the pack. Now, beetroot also benefit from pre-treatment. I soak my seed in water overnight. I found that gets them just out of the ground much more quickly, and they can go straight into the soil. They are a really big, easy, robust seed, and sometimes you'll actually get a number of plants from an individual seed. They're aggregate seed, there's a number of embryos. You don't need to stress about that too much because they're used to growing as a clump together. And I grow a couple of varieties. This is Chioggia, which is a beautiful Italian candy-striped variety, and lots of regular reds. One of the last roots that I grow are parsnips, and people commonly actually really struggle to grow these, and I almost guarantee it's for the same reason. This seed needs to be exceptionally fresh, so I save it myself every year and re-sow that. And in fact, it self-seeds all throughout their garden. They're a little bit of a weed. They are a larger papery seed, and they will take a lot longer to germinate than these two. So you can go a bit earlier in the season in that cooler winter soil, sow your parsnips, and they should germinate within about a month. The carrot seed mixed with soil is just sprinkled along the rows, and then carefully backfilled and firmed down to make sure I'm making contact with the fine seed. I'll drip the beetroot seed along the rows, and then again firm them down to make sure the seed is covered. And then, to keep them cool and moist, I'll chuck on a little bit of fabric. Root crops really are a staple in the kitchen, and with a little bit of soil prep and the perfect timing, you can make them a staple in the garden too.